Hello, fellow dog fanciers, welcome back or welcome if you're new. And in case you're new, I highly encourage you to subscribe so that you don't miss any hot topics that will be coming up. Today's video is on the more chill side, meaning it's not educational, it's more of a story time. And I say it's not educational, but I try to squeeze something important in all of my videos, so maybe there will be something educational after all. I'm here with Brady, and today I'm going to tell you the story of how we fell in love with whippets after years and years of finding them ugly and disgusting. So I will not waste any more time and get into the video. I've mentioned before that thanks to animal-loving parents, I grew up with all kinds of animals. We've had Persian cats, turtles, parrots, all kinds of fish, rabbits, hamsters, axolotl, and of course dogs. And our first dog was actually my parents' first dog. She was an Eastern European Shepherd called Ria, and they had her 1 year before I was born. I don't really remember her that well because I've been very young, and at some point she went to live with my grandma for a little bit because my grandma had a garden and we were in an apartment with a huge dog. A while after she did return, and I believe she passed away at the age of 11, and I must have been 12 at the time. When I was young, I was a big fan of the Air Bud movies, and I absolutely fall in love with the breed Golden Retriever. And that was really a dream of mine as a kid to have a Golden Retriever. And here comes the educational part. If you want to own a breed, do your research and don't just decide that you want that breed because you saw it in a movie, commercial, or a YouTube video. At the time when I was 12, we thought we will get another dog, but when we moved to the house where we live in now. And for that to have happened, the house had to be completely built and set up for living. But sometimes life plays around and what's meant to happen does happen eventually. So one day we were having a walk in the garden of my primary school, and we saw a lady with a little golden retriever puppy. So my parents approached her and they asked her where she got the puppy from. It turned out the puppy was coming from a breeder, it had papers, the parents were health tested, and she knew that perhaps there is still one male and a female puppy available. So my parents contacted the breeder right away, and that same evening, completely out of nowhere and completely unplanned, we went to visit the breeder and the two puppies. We settled for the male puppy, and that turned out to be our second dog and my dream come true, Brightly. And Brightly, apart from being, of course, a best friend, he was also our very first show dog and the dog that introduced us to the world of show dogs and purebred breeding. Now, Brightly was a purebred golden retriever, but was he well bred? No, but that's a whole story for a different video because I want to keep it kind of brief and focus more on the whippet part. When he was a year and a half old, we finally moved into our brand new house, and shortly after, my parents fell in love with the breed Newfoundland. There was a new club set up that became a member of the federation in the country here. So my parents did get in touch with the club and eventually we imported a Chelsea. Keep in mind, at the time we were so much into big dogs and anything small was What even is that? Excuse me, that's a dog? So anything smaller than a large breed was no for us. Now, thanks to HL, so we started going to shows abroad as well, and we met some wonderful people from different countries and within the country. And because I've never mentioned it, you might wonder, what is this mysterious country that I mention all the time, but I never mention the name? I live in Bulgaria, you guys. Now that is debunked. So while going to shows, we were looking at whippets and we thought, what are those ugly, disgusting little skinny animals, and who even wants to have them and who even breeds them? Like, what is that? Little did we know that one little whippet would have changed everything for us and would have turned our perceptions around completely. One day after a show in a different city, and I am in Sofia, by the way, that is the capital of Bulgaria, for those that do not know, we decided to go and visit friends for a coffee, and these friends had Alaskan Malamutes. But they also had one little female whippet. So we went there, we were sitting in the garden, drinking coffee, and all of a sudden they said, "Hey, do you want to meet the whippet? It's like a lovely dog for playing." And my siblings, I have a brother and a sister, were 5 at the time, so they looked at the kids and they were like, "Hey, we have this little dog that loves kids, you want to see her?" And we were like, "Yeah, of course. I mean, we have only looked at these ugly little dogs from a distance, so it wouldn't hurt to meet them in person, right?" And then all of a sudden, there comes Daisy. And now I don't have a picture of Daisy, so I'm not going to include one, but Daisy was just so different from any of the dogs we were used to, from any of the dogs that we owned, and from any of the dogs that we thought we would ever like and even love. She walked like a cat, and she gently jumped on the garden swing where we were sitting, and she showed affection in such a gentle manner, in such a cat-like way, that it was like completely unseen by us before. She greeted us, she was happy, but she didn't show any signs of euphoria or hysteria just because there are new people around. She was just so respectful, and she sat next to us and she just cuddled there for the rest of the time. And what we noticed first after her personality was that she had no smell whatsoever. And that was, of course, a complete shocker because, mind you, we're used to dogs that have smell. Almost every dog would have a smell to it, and it's something that is not bad, and it's definitely something that people who own bigger breeds are very used to. So we couldn't imagine that there is possibly a dog that had absolutely no smell. And another thing was, she was not skinny, it was just her body type, obviously. She was lean, she was in fantastic condition, no bones sticking out, and she was just adorable. She was beautiful, a stunning little dog. And I think at that point we all looked at each other without really sharing what we thought. And when coffee time was over, we all sat in the car, and one of us, I think it was my mom, just threw this joke like, "Hey, why don't we get one? It's small, it won't take much space, and it's going to exercise the bigger dogs." And this is one of those cases when all the truth in the world is contained in one joke, if you know what I mean. The exact next day, I start researching the breed in detail. And more importantly, I start researching breeders throughout Europe. So I reached to a few breeders in Europe, and we came across Daira. Daira was located in Lithuania at the time, so, after a lot of conversations, proving as fantastic potential owners, her breeder agreed that she will give her to us, and we arranged that we were going to pick her up at, if I'm correct, the European Dog Show in Budapest, and that was in the year 2008. So this poor little monkey traveled all the way from Lithuania to Hungary in crates and whatnot. And she arrived and she was so outgoing. And the first idea that you get when you look at the whippet is like, oh, they're so fragile, oh, they're always cold and shaky and antisocial, and they're afraid of other dogs and people. But actually, none of that is true. We absolutely fell in love with her because, compared to the boys, she was still a gentle little thing. And day by day, we started thinking the exact same thing. And that was the thought, this is the dog. Mind you, of course, I miss the two boys, and we love them very much. We gave our heart and soul to them, and their personalities have nothing to do with their breed. It's just that we will never own a breed different than the Whippet in our lives. And probably I should never say never, but at least that's what I think at the moment. Of course, there are many breeds that I admire and I love to gain knowledge about, but I would probably not want to have them in my home. And when you get used to a dog that has no smell, like I mean absolutely no smell, you can't look at anything else. Now, here is the thing when it comes to breeds. People sometimes go through different breeds until they find the breed for them. And there is nothing wrong with that. And as long as you're prepared very well for the breed that you would like to own, everything else is going to be fine. You might have a basset hound right now, and in 10 years, you will look at a toy poodle and you will be like, this is the dog for me. And here is the point, we always loved bigger breeds. And we looked at the whippets and we thought they're so ugly and disgusting, and now I can't imagine life without them. And long story short, after Daira, actually 2 years after Daira came Lacey, and Lacey came from the Netherlands, and the rest is history. Another moral that you could take out of this story is don't judge a breed by looking at it on a picture or from a distance in the park or at a show. You always want to meet the breed in person. So when you decide that you want to own a specific dog, find a way to have this close touch with this specific dog. And that's how you will get a very detailed idea of whether this dog is going to be for you or not. And this also applies the other way around. Perhaps you like a dog by the way it looks, but the right breed is something completely different, but you're not so into it. You can still just find a way and go visit this specific breed because it might change your perception and it might turn your life around. Please leave a comment. What is your favorite breed? What dogs do you own? And if you adopted a dog or if you're fostering a dog, please tell us that story in the comment section because I absolutely love adoption stories. So any adoption stories are very welcome. Have a fantastic weekend and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!